So Robert Englund recently said that he wants to come back and play Freddy Krueger one more time in the iconic role, but it's not in the way that you would expect. We're going to jump right into it, but before we do, please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, so recently Robert Englund said in a Bloody Disgusting article or interview that he does want to come back to play Freddy Krueger. And I'll read the part of the article that really is the key here. And it says, "There's no Freddy left in me. I could possibly voice a really high end animated version. That would be nice to be asked to do." And this really would be something that could work because part of the Freddy character is his voice, you know? He's one of the only major horror villains that talks. You have Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, and the list goes on, but the voice of Freddy Krueger is half the character. I mean, to me, his voice is just as important as the burned face, the makeup, or the razor glove. Freddy is 50% physical and 50% vocal. So, an animated series like this lets Robert Englund keep at least half of the character that matters the most, and that's his voice. And this would really free him from the physical demands of a more cinematic role. I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, look at all of the original films, how much work really went into that, how much he had to physically do. And then just the makeup alone. I remember Jackie Earle Haley, who played Freddy in the remake, talked about how exhausting it was just sitting in that chair for so many hours and putting on the makeup. And I don't think Robert Englund at his age, that's something that he really wants to go through again, going through the makeup day in and day out. And he actually mentioned something about the physical barriers as well. It says here in the article, "I can't do the fight scenes more than one take now or one angle. I can't just be snapping my head or anything like that. I'm an old dog." And really, he's not joking. He's just being brutally honest about it. And really, he's being brutally honest in a way that only someone who's really comfortable with their current legacy really can be. Robert Englund doing an animated series isn't a compromise at all. It's really just the best path forward if he were to come back and play this role. And then also, let's not forget, it's the 40th anniversary, and I think that might be the best way for him, at least, to celebrate the 40th anniversary is by honoring its past with something that he can actually pull off and honestly just kind of passing the torch to the future. So for a lot of the people saying that they think that Freddy should come back in a more physical role and play the role the way he used to, it's really not about a lack of desire to play the role. It really is just the physical toll that it would take on his body. You know, Freddy really is a very physical role. I mean, go back and watch those movies. The fight scenes, the stunts, the intense movement, the weeks of heavy prosthetics. Englund knows what it requires and he knows what his body can't deliver anymore. So the animated route really is just logical. It's the version that would let him continue to be Freddy without damaging the legacy of the character. So with all of that said, I really think that the animated path really could be the best way to go. I mean, I think animated horror is kind of moving in on its own now. Like there's a lot of animated horror coming out, and maybe now is the time for him to jump into that world. And really you can do a lot more with animated horror than you would be able to do as far as budget goes in a cinematic world. I mean, if you look at the dream sequences that we saw in the original Nightmare on Elm Street or any of his subsequent sequels, that stuff today, if they were to try to reach that level of dream sequence with CGI and so on, and even with practical effects, I think it would just be so expensive that it would turn off a lot of movie companies, especially New Line Cinema right now. So I don't think it's possible to pull that off, at least not right now. So maybe an animated series would be the best way to go because it would be a lot cheaper, and you can do things with an animated series that it would be too hard to do. You know, you imagine the worlds that they can create, the dream sequences that they could create. Imagine you could even go like into anthologies with this Freddy series if they really wanted to go that route. So there's a lot more that can be done as far as animation. And I think if we were to get a return of Robert Englund, I think he's right. this is the best way to go. I don't want to see him come back and be in a cinematic universe. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all know there's no one that can play the Freddy Krueger role the way that Robert Englund plays it. No one will ever be able to pull that off again. I think to protect the legacy of that character and the legacy of this franchise, we don't want to see him come back at a fraction of himself. You know, we don't want to see him moving slowly, not able to perform the way he used to. Like he mentioned in that article, you got one take in him to pull off a stunt, and if he can't do it, that's it. He can't do it. And of course, you got stunt men and body doubles and that type of thing, but this is someone who was doing all of his own stuff in the original series, and it showed. So I don't want to see, a fraction of Freddy Krueger come back. I don't want to see him moving at a fraction of the pace that he used to be able to move and performing at half, of what he used to. So I honestly think if he can come back and play in an animated series and just lend his voice to the character, then that's going to be the best way. Now, moving forward away from an animated series, I do think that there's potential to bring back a cinematic world of Freddy Krueger. It has to be done right. The last time they tried it, I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I like what Jackie Earle Haley brought to the role. I get what they were trying to do in trying to make Nightmare on Elm Street much darker versus that comedic side that we saw from Robert Englund. Robert Englund delivered a lot of punchlines and jokes and still managed to make it extremely scary. But what they were trying to do with that 2010 remake with Jackie Earle Haley was just try to make them really dark and make the movie dark and just kind of make it a lot more scary and less punchliney, if that makes sense. That's the thing that drew us into the series. Those comedic punchlines, that character that Freddy had, that voice that he brought to the series, that's a big part of why we love A Nightmare on Elm Street. So if they were to bring back this franchise in a cinematic way, they're going to have to at least try in a way to recreate that. You're never going to recreate the same thing. That's not going to happen. We're not expecting Robert Englund to come back, or we're not expecting you to duplicate Robert Englund's performance or duplicate the punchlines or do a line for line, shot for shot remake. That's not what we're expecting. But you do have to deliver some of that comedic value. And the other thing that was missing from the 2010 remake that they would have to bring back are those dream sequences. The dream sequences that we got in the original franchise of A Nightmare on Elm Street was chaotic. Think about I believe it was Nightmare on Elm Street 4, where he brought out the Nintendo glove and the joystick, and he threw the character into the game and was using him to kind of beat up on him in the game. That type of thing. Or remember when he played the puppeteer with his hand out of the building, like those types of things that really drew us to the franchise. Those types of things have to come back. And that was largely missing from the 2010 remake. So they could still make it dark the way they tried to do in 2010, but we need the comedic value. We need the outrageous dream sequences. Remember when Nancy was trying to run up the stairs and her feet were going through the steps? It was like this marshmallow. Like, we need all of that back in order to make a new version of A Nightmare on Elm Street work. So with all of that said, I do want to know your thoughts in terms of the animated series. Do you want to see Robert Englund come back as a voice actor for an animated Nightmare on Elm Street? Also, to my other point, how would you feel about a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street that feels a lot more true to the original? Or how did you feel about the 2010 remake, and do you think that one was okay and should have been expanded on? So let me know down below in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.